The movie opens in a forest in Ireland, where a man named John is running desperately. He soon arrives at a sign that says point of no return 108. He keeps running, but quickly notices that he's been going in circles all along. Suddenly, a flock of crows appears, and he realizes it will soon be dark. John becomes terrified and tries to climb a tree for shelter, but he slips and falls. Moments later, an unseen creature arrives and drags him away. In the following scene, we see an American girl named Mina working in a pet store in Galway. Her boss gives her a valuable golden conure parrot and asks her to deliver it to a zoo in Belfast. Mina agrees, as she is also tired of sitting in the store all day. The next day, she departs for Belfast with the parrot. On the way, she receives a voice message from her twin sister Lucy, who reminds her of their mother's death anniversary. She claims it has been 15 years and asks Mina to move on from the incidents and not blame herself. Tough to do when she's calling with reminders. She also invites her to visit the family, but Mina appears uninterested. Shortly after, Mina enters a forest area with numerous signs of missing people and animals. Her radio then turns off on its own and the car comes to a sudden stop. She attempts to restart the vehicle, but it doesn't work, so she gets out and starts looking around. Mina soon stumbles upon a sign that says point of no return 12. This makes her assume that someone lives nearby, so she decides to go a bit further. However, just moments later, when Mina turns around, she notices that her car has vanished. She becomes concerned as she realizes nightfall's approaching. Shortly after, she hears mysterious sounds coming from nearby, and the ground also begins to shake. Mina then notices someone running and decides to follow them. She eventually discovers a cabin where an old woman informs her that she must enter if she wants to live. Hearing the animals screeching, Mina decides to trust the woman and rushes inside. Following this, the old woman introduces herself as Madeline and presents her with two companions, Chiara and Daniel. She explains that the cabin they are in is called the Coop and that they have all been here for a while. The group then holds hands and looks into what appears to be a two-sided mirror. Madeline reveals that the beings on the other side are known as the Watchers. They are forest creatures who visit the cabin every night to observe the occupants. Since Mina is new, they position her in front of them to welcome her. The Watchers seemingly like her, and they give her a warm applause. Cool, tell her to eat a piece of cake. Easy, Daniel, too. The next morning, a confused Mina believes these people are insane and decides to leave. She takes the parrot along with her and sets off to find her car. However, she quickly becomes disoriented and unsure of her path. Mina arrives near a cliff where she is shocked to see the massive forest around her. This makes her realize that it is impossible to get out if you're on foot. Shortly after, Madeline catches up with her and asks her to return. She explains that they have all tried to flee, but the fog causes visual hallucinations, making escape nearly impossible. She also reveals that there are several points of no return signs in the forest that can guide them back to the Coop before sunset. However, crossing the line means they will not be able to turn back. When Mina asks who put up these signs, Madeline says they call him the Professor. With no other choice, Mina returns to the Coop and decides to live with them. The next day, the group goes out to hunt for food, and during this time, she bonds with Chiara. The latter confides that her husband John was with them until last week, when he supposedly went out for help. He is actually the same guy we saw at the start of the movie. Following this, Chiara takes Mina to a massive burrow where the Watchers live. She explains that there are many of these throughout the forest, and the Watchers are unable to come out during the day. When Mina asks how long she has been here, she responds that she and John arrived 5 months ago. Later, as they gather around the fireplace, Madeline informs Mina about the rules of survival here. These include never turning your back on the mirror, never opening the door in the dark, occasionally at the crack of midnight showing your butt crack to the mirror, staying away from the burrows, and always remaining in the light. The next day, Mina goes on hunting duties with Daniel. He admits that he has been here for 8 months and has never seen a Watcher. Mina finds this strange and begins to question Madeline's honesty with them. She asks him to help her investigate the burrows, and after some hesitation, he finally agrees. With Daniel's help, Mina uses a rope to descend into one of the burrows. She then uses her lighter to illuminate the area and discovers several old objects, including a newspaper, a broken camcorder, and some stuffed animals. Moments later, a strange hand approaches and attempts to hurt her, but before it can do so, Daniel throws the rope, allowing Mina to climb up with the items. In the next scene, Mina displays the items she has gathered and persuades the group to devise an escape plan. Madeline suspects Mina of breaking the rules, but she claims that she found the items in the forest. After a while, Daniel fixes the camcorder and connects it to the TV. They then decide to place it outside by the door to keep an eye on the Watchers. Later, during dinner, a man approaches the door coughing and knocking. They see his legs on the television screen, and the man claims to be John. Madeline is shocked and says it's not possible because no humans are spared after it gets dark. She questions Mina, asking if she broke the rules, and the latter finally admits that she went inside one of the burrows. Meanwhile, Chiara wants to open the door for her husband, but Madeline says it is a Watcher watcher in disguise. Kiara then tests him by asking about the book she's currently reading, but the man cannot answer. This finally makes her realize that the man is not her husband. But before she can proceed with her next move, she is attacked by a watcher who also destroys the camcorder. The next morning, the group gathers the things Mina brought and throws them into the burrow. Madeline is furious with her and orders her to stop risking others' lives for her experiments. Mina also understands the gravity of the situation, so she promises to abide by the rules from now on. The scene then cuts to a flashback of Mina's childhood on the day she lost her mother. Mom was driving the car while Mina and Lucy were playing in the back seat. Everything was going well until Mina got her hands stuck in the window and she started screaming. Mom looked back to check what was going on, but this caused her to get distracted. The resulting collision immediately killed her, while the two daughters managed to survive with just minor injuries. Mina has been living with guilt since then and has struggled to move on. She shouldn't blame herself. Everyone who's ever driven a car in a movie has crashed it. In the present, we see that many months have passed in the forest and winter has now come. Things have become increasingly tense for the group because of food scarcity. As a result, Daniel and Madeline frequently argue, and Kiara has become depressed while missing her husband. One afternoon, Daniel and Madeline have another heated argument. He becomes so enraged that he ties her up to a tree. When Mina tries to free her, Daniel grabs Kiara and locks the coop door, leaving the other two outside. The women plead with Daniel to open the door, but he continues to refuse. As darkness falls, Madeline guides Mina to a makeshift shelter of branches where they can hide. They then notice the Watchers emerging for the first time. The creatures are tall, lanky, spider-like monsters that let out horrible screeches. They stand by the window and are puzzled by the two women's absence. Daniel informs them that the women are still outside and urges the creatures to hunt them down. The Watchers seemingly agree and begin roaming around the forest in search of them. After they leave, Madeline and Mina bang on the door again, pleading with Daniel to open it. When he refuses, Mina begins to confide in him about how she caused her mother's death. She says that she is a horrible person, but Daniel doesn't have to be like her. Moved by her words, he finally changes his mind and opens the door. Once inside, Madeline chastises Daniel for his actions before finally revealing the truth about the Watchers. She explains that they were once called fairies as they possessed wings and magical abilities, but now they have simply become shapeshifters who have been observing and attempting to mimic humans. Madeline also describes an incident when she saw a Watcher who looked exactly like her, but in a distorted form. While they are discussing this, the Watchers return to the coop and start banging on the door. This is the first time they are doing so, as the rules have been broken. The group even hears their own voices, revealing that the Watchers are quick learners. At this intense moment, Daniel discovers a hatch on the floor, which he quickly opens. Despite not knowing what's inside, they decide to enter the hatch to protect themselves from the Watchers. Shortly after, the group arrives at a secret bunker stocked with food, books, sketches, and various notes on the creatures. Mina discovers an old computer containing several videos of the professor. They find out that his name is Rory Kilmartin, and he was studying the Watchers. They then begin watching his video logs to learn more about their situation. In one of the videos, the professor reveals that he arrived here in 2009 to study the Watchers. He mentions that these creatures often watch him through the glass and attempt to mimic his actions. He further admits that he used several villagers to create the bunker, which he called Wonderland for some creepy reason. He then fed those people to the Watchers so that no one would know of his investigations. One day, the professor befriended a Watcher and gained its trust. He used the creature in his experiments but was unable to achieve anything significant. After a year of studying the captured fairy, he realized he had turned into a monster by exploiting the lives of humans and fairies for his selfishness. In his final video, the professor explained that anyone trapped should go to the point of no return 134, where they can find a boat to escape across the river. He also instructs the survivors to go to his university and destroy the research papers. The video ends as he takes a gun and heads upstairs to kill the captured fairy. 2 gunshots are heard, implying that both of them are dead. The next day, the group follows the professor's instructions and uses the parrot to find the river at the forest's edge. Along the way, Madeline discovers a sacred rock and explains that it represents the war between fairies and humans. What? They once coexisted peacefully, but then the fairies became stronger and started to threaten the other races. So, the humans were forced to banish them to the underground. Madeline describes how the fairies were defeated. Their wings were removed, and they are now eternally imprisoned in the forest. Soon, the sky darkens and rain begins to fall. The group arrives at the boat, but Daniel is unexpectedly approached by a wounded man. He turns out to be a Watcher, posing as John, who asks for his help. The others try to warn him that it is not the real John, but it is too late. The monster soon reveals its true form and snaps Daniel's neck, killing him instantly. This horrifies the women, but they have no time to mourn for his stupid ass, so they get on the boat and flee. Since the river is just outside the forest, all the Watchers can do is stare at them with scary eyes. Hours later, the trio finally crosses the forest and reaches a road. They then board the first bus, humans they find and return to the city. The scene then cuts to a few days later where Mina visits the professor's university and examines his work. His paper is titled The Halfling Dilemma, which details the fairies and their history before transforming into beasts. There are scrolls that prove they once lived among humans as friends and even lovers. Those born to humans and fairies became halflings. These fairies were able to mimic humans and even take on the form of the deceased. Mina then comes across a set of pictures that leave her in shock. In the next scene, she goes to Kiara's house and shares what she discovered. She shows her a photo that reveals Madeline is actually the professor's wife. However, the most shocking fact is that Madeline died of cancer in 2001. Mina suspects that the person living in the coop was a fairy impersonating Madeline. She also speculates that the professor was invested in his research because he was attempting to replicate his late wife. Hearing this, Kiara is shocked and asks how Madeline could walk in daylight. Mina says that it could be because she is a half-human. At this moment, the real Kiara shows up at the house, which leaves Mina shocked. It means that she has actually been talking to the Watcher. Kiara enters the house, but the Watcher immediately knocks her out. She then transforms into Mina's own form and attacks her. She reveals how the professor pretended to befriend her and then used her for experiments. When he attempted to get rid of her, she had no choice but to kill him. The Watcher says that Mina will also betray her, just as the professor did, since it is in the nature of humans. I'm lost. Is anyone else lost? However, Mina pleads with her not to hurt her and reveals her status as a halfling. She explains to the Watcher that she can walk freely in daylight because she's half-human. Mina begs the Watcher to let go of her hatred for humans, reminding her of how she protected them from the other monsters in the forest. She tells her that despite all the evilness, there is still humanity within. Mina is also hopeful that there are other halflings like her and urges her to seek them out so she won't feel lonely. Hearing this, the Watcher is speechless and deeply emotional. She then miraculously regains her wings and the magic that was once taken from her by humans. With her newfound freedom, she takes off to find the other halflings around the world. In the final scene, Mina reunites with her sister Lucy after years of estrangement. This means that she has finally let go of her guilt and decided to move on in life. Mina shares with Lucy what she experienced in the forest. She reveals that she still believes the Watcher is protecting her like a guardian angel. The movie then ends with a little girl watching Mina's house from the street, who is actually the Watcher in another form. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.